Nomsa, welcome to the Space Plus podcast. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good, and I'm excited to have you here.
I'm more excited.
You're
more excited.
Okay, how have you been? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. School is going well. Work is going well. So I'm blessed and highly favored.
Okay, cool,
Yes,
cool.
yes.
So Nomsa, what is your definition of quality education?
Quality education. To me, quality education is a simply equitable education. But to expand on that, it's education in which no matter one's socioeconomic status or one's environment, they have access to resources, they have access to supportive teachers, to a textbook, to opportunities to help them grow. So yeah.
That's very fascinating because like you've talked about how people need access.
Yes.
And that's a problem that plagues most, especially like from my perspective, from the Kenyan perspective, we see that people do not have access to education because of financial barriers. So how do you think we should mitigate that and enable them to have access to equitable education?
Yeah, it starts with the people who have access, okay? So if you have access and you have opportunities and you see when another person without access, what must be done? You can use your opportunities to then help others. Like for me, how my definition of quality education grew over time was at first I thought it was just getting good grades and being able to go to school. That's simply quality education. Taking advanced classes, simply quality education. But no, quality education goes beyond that because you have to then consider another person because of their income, because of their background, because of where they live. They're not able to take advanced classes. They're not able to receive a simple textbook. So yeah, that's really it.
So when did you have like this change in your perspective, like from grades being a definition of like good education to this other definition?
I would say my change happened junior year of high school. And so I usually I go to Zimbabwe with my family every year, and so one year I went and I had the opportunity to help teach a class, and I saw the teacher said, yeah, we're going to teach about this topic, but we don't have the textbook, so let's improvise. I said, you don't have the textbook, how are you going to teach the class? And she said, this is what we do. It's normal. This is normal, right? I'm thinking, oh, everyone has the access to a simple textbook. That's not the case. So that's what I learned over time. I'm ignorant to the world around me and to the definition of quality education because not everyone has the same opportunities as me because of simply where they come from or where they stay. Not everyone has access simply because of where they were born.
So and you did this work during the summer. So
I did.
Could you please walk us through like the work that you did during the summer?
Yes, I would love to. So me, I'm from Zimbabwe, and the organization that I went to Zimbabwe with is called Queen Centers for Hope, and what they do is they teach public health topics to students all over the globe. In Africa, in South America, North America, we just teach public health topics. And so how I first learned about Queen Centers for Hope is because it's based in Zimbabwe. The founder, Dr. Chadwinga, was at GNN Mission School, where I used to learn. I had the opportunity to learn in Zimbabwe for 2 years. And so I came back one summer, and the time I said where I had the opportunity to help teach, right? And so that's when I saw, the textbook is not available. So I was like, no, let me join this organization, see what I can do to help be a part of this change. So I've been working with Queen Centers for Hope since I was a junior in high school. And so over this summer, specifically, I received a position called Youth Health Education Coordinator. And what you do is you just work on creating curriculum in which you teach to students all over the globe. And so this summer I went to Rutenga, which is in rural Zimbabwe, and I taught grades 3 to 5. And we taught them simple topics such as physical education, as mental health. And I saw these students, they were never exposed to a topic called mental health. They were told to suppress their feelings. But instead we went and we were comfortable with the uncomfortable, and we just taught them topics in which I thought were normal topics to be taught in school, but when I went to Zimbabwe, I learned no. Not everyone has access to a simple topic such as mental and emotional health or physical education as that. So that's what I did this summer.
So how did you change the narrative? Like when you got there, you find people who like are not comfortable talking about mental health. How did you like approach that?
Yeah, so I learned the hard way. You must be comfortable with being uncomfortable. So what that means is we went into these classrooms and we started talking about sexual abuse prevention. And this is a very sensitive topic, no matter where you come from. It's a very sensitive topic. And at times the teachers, they would say, why are you teaching such a thing to the students? I said, why am I teaching? Because they need to know. They need to know. A lot of the time we suppress and we think education is only math, English, science, social studies. No, education also has to deal with what you can dream of and what you can be and what you will become. So we started teaching about sexual abuse prevention, and they first neglected this idea. They said, we don't want this in our classrooms. And I said, no. It's not about what you want, because someone has no choice over whether they're abused, right? You don't get to choose such a thing. So we went there and we just decided our mentality was, you don't have to be perfect. We just want you to be present for the students, and that's what we were. And we took on this mentality of being uncomfortable, because that's the only way you can reach them. If you're comfortable, how can we reach you? We can't reach you if you're comfortable. So we just decided to push on this uncomfortable topic, and that's how we did it.
Yeah, and you know, like when you've spoken, you talked about another definition of quality education, of how like you have to, there's a practicality involved in it.
Right.
There's a way that you should be able to achieve your dreams from education, which I really appreciate. And I was doing my research as well in the summer, and my research is on like femicide and how like language shapes the discourse on femicide. And it's very interesting because like my approach is also like what I want to do in the future with research is like educating people from like the ground up. Like kids should learn about the issues of, you know, gender-based violence, what it means to be a woman, you know, like our understandings of gender in like from when we're kids, because like boys are usually taught to not be like girls from when they're kids. So I really appreciate how you're tackling that issue like with kids, because they need to grow up knowing, you know, like this is an issue and they need to understand, you know, how to go about that. But now let's shift gears to your journey in Colombia. Why did you choose Colombia?
Why did I choose Colombia? So there's multiple reasons, but I'll tell you the two main reasons. The first reason is because when you look up Columbia University today online, you see the topic of diversity and of students who are making change within the institution, right? Other universities, you see the students are silent to themselves. They accommodate for what the administration has to say. But at Columbia, I noticed, no, the students, they take a stand and they want to be the change and they want to make a change, but they don't just say it, they act on it. So I saw that the students at Columbia, they are acting on their wants, they're acting on their wishes, and I said, I like the action. I want to be a part of the action. So that's why I'm here.
Okay. So this was your first choice?
This was my first choice.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you. Congrats to you too.
This was also my first choice. For me, I loved the core.
Okay.
I just love the fact that we get to read and, you know, understand the world from reading. And right now, of course, we're doing contemporary civilization, and I just like appreciate how, most especially like in my class, they've incorporated like other, you know, philosophies. So talking like Western philosophy, but other philosophies, which I really appreciate. And you've talked about like the, you know, critique and practices. Like we should just not critique, but we should also like practice what we preach. And I'm wondering, like for you, when did you have like this understanding? You know, like because you applied to Columbia when in high school, did you like know that like you need that practical aspect in education?
I think this happened when I'm just going to turn it back to Queen Central Pope, when I first got involved with Queen Central Pope, right? And it was my senior year of high school, senior year summer. And so I was talking to the students a lot of the time because of my accent. They would try to conversate with me because they were fascinated with the American accent. So we just talk and they'd say this. And I'd say it and they say it. And we would talk about, at first it was simple topics. Very simple. What's your favorite color? My favorite color is blue. But over time, they started talking about, so why are you here? If you could be back in America, what are you doing here? And I said, I just love my country. I love my culture. They said, no, but you keep coming back. You keep coming back. I said, because I love my country. They said, no, you keep coming back to us. And then I never thought about it in that way because, yes, I was not forced. The school was called GETA Admission School. Nobody forced me to go to GETA Admission School. I chose to go, but I never really analyzed why I choose to go. And I would say I chose to go because I felt I needed to connect with another student and let them know I'm here for you. I can help you. There's someone you can aspire to be. There's something you can aspire to do. And in order to do so, you must act on it. So if I were just to sit there and not interact with the students, no action would be done. Nothing would be done. But a simple interaction, a simple telling you, hey, you can do better than this. You will get farther than this. That action behind my words is what really motivated them to be inspired. Yes.
And, you know, it's very fascinating the fact that you have like the pride of where you're from.
Yes.
You know, I remember even like during Froside, like you mentioned, you know, like from Froside, and then I see your post and you're going back to Zimbabwe and doing the work over there, and I really like love that. Just that prideful of where you're from.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of people should like embody that.
Exactly.
You know? Like for Kenyans, you know, I love how like Kenyans have the Kenyan bracelet.
Yes.
You know, try to preach that it's a cult. You know? I love being a cult. But I love that, and I feel like more Africans, especially, should like just embody that pride.
Yes.
And should aspire to like make their home better. You know. Yeah. But now, how has the experience been in Colombia? You know, like now we're in sophomore year. How has that been?
Yeah, I would say, to put it simply, it's been great. Only because I came here for a reason, and I see that reason being fulfilled. I came here to be of action, and I'm being of action. I'm working with Queen Centers for Hope. I brought it over here at Columbia. We've started a student chapter. We're now reaching out to students in New York City, not just, you know, in Zimbabwe, but we're reaching out to students in New York City, and I see other like-minded individuals. And so my experience at Columbia has been strengthened due to the student body, because I see other like-minded individuals who also have a passion, and we're driven by one another's passion, and that just motivates me, right? So I would say it's been great because of the people that I've interacted with.
So what do you have like any moment like here in Colombia where you were like, this is why I'm here?
Yes, so I can share, there's actually been a lot, but I will share the main one. When I was simply sitting in John Jay, one of the dining halls, and I was like talking to my friend across the table. We were talking about public health, right? And I was frustrated. I said, oh, the public health concentration, I'm not sure if I can fit it in my schedule. And another kind lady, she jumped in and she said, I also want to do public health. And then we just started talking about our passion for public health. Then it led to her wanting to visit Zimbabwe one day. Then it led to me wanting to visit Jamaica one day because she's Jamaican. And so we just, one simple me complaining to my friend about public health led to me forming a connection with another friend. And I realized that at Columbia, you have the opportunity to build relationships with people from all over the globe, right? You cannot limit yourself. The only way to limit yourself is to stay in your dorm. But as soon as you step outside your dorm, you'll meet someone from South America, North America, Africa, Antarctica, all over the place. So I think that's it.
Oh, for me, like my interest in public health, I think it stemmed from when I went to Gambia. And it was just like very interesting also, like just learning about the culture of Gambia and how like, you know, the cultures overlap. You know, the culture in East Africa is somewhat similar to West African culture, but there's also like an element of difference.
Yes.
And when I came back here, I was like, okay, you have to do public health because like we're doing projects on like, you know, hypertension, diabetes, and stuff like that. And just like always giving back home. Like to me, like home, of course, it's Kenya, but it's also the African continent.
Yes.
And yeah, it was just like a fascinating experience. Just like again learning about my identity as an African, like. You know, like, it was interesting because the first half of the summer I was in New York, and then I went to Kenya, and then I went now to Gambia, and just like in New York, of course, like I see my place in the global field, and then I go back to Kenya and see myself like at home. This is my home, this is my, you know, place. And then in Gambia now I see myself as an African, which is just like full circle. I've seen myself in all dimensions. And yeah, public health is just very interesting because it's also very multifaceted.
Exactly.
And yeah, but now let's shift gears to sophomore year started. We're done with like lit term, pro-sci. Right now we're doing CC. How would you compare like your workload in freshman year to sophomore year?
So I would definitely say the workload for freshman year was a lot. It was because I was new to the environment, new to this study routine. In high school, I studied, but I didn't study. Yeah. And then I came to Columbia, and I'm in Butler for hours on end. I never imagined myself sitting in a library for more than 6 hours straight. That was, if you told me in high school you're doing that, I said, ooh. And so I came to Columbia. That happened. I was like, wow. And so freshman year was hard to take in. But now as I've, evolved and learned, in sophomore year, the weight is now, it's calmed down now because I've now adjusted and I've gotten my priorities in order. So I would say sophomore year load is definitely less. Yes.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I kind of vibe with that because freshman spring was a lot. Freshman spring was a lot.
It was, yeah.
And I feel like that's because of, again, adapting. Because for me, like coming to the States, you know, and just being bombarded. The first week of uni of classes, they're telling you about like Canvas and midterms. I don't even know. I've never used Canvas before, guys. let us learn.
Yeah, right.
You know? So I feel like right now it's been easier just because I'm adapting to like New York and all the hustle and bustle of New York and stuff like that. Yeah. Right now I want to ask you, what makes you you? You know, I want to because I'm really inspired by what you post, by what you put out there, and I want people to know who you are. You know, yeah. So what makes Nomsa?
Yeah. Hey, there's a lot of things I can say, but I think what makes Nomsa is my passion. But passion accompanied by action, right? I feel as if when I have a passion for something, it may take me a few weeks to actually get up and start it, but at the end of the day, I'm going to get it done. So my passion and my action combined, I can't mess with that. That's what makes me because a simple thing like Queen Centers for Hope, starting the chapter this semester, I had a passion for reaching students all over the globe, and we're already starting here in New York City, where I've never even encountered the New York education system, but it's been going great, and I believe that my passion is the reason why I'm even here today.
So what are your passions right now?
Right now, first passion is to become a pediatric surgeon, and because there is, in the healthcare system, there's disparities, it's very rare to find a Black woman who is a pediatric surgeon. That's rare. That's not something you come across. So I would say my passion for doing that is because I want to inspire other young Black girls. Nothing can stop you except for yourself. Okay? Yep. So it's just putting my foot in the door, but it will allow generations more to come to do the same thing. And then I would say my next passion is just equitable education for children all over the world, because I do know today that because of where one comes from, that determines how much they can dream, and that's sad. It shouldn't be a reality that because I'm here in Zimbabwe and I can't have my textbook, I cannot dream as much as Nomsa can dream at Columbia. That should not be a reality. So my passion is to step into classrooms all over the globe, in which it becomes a global movement to create equitable education for all students all over the world. Yes.
And what did you always have this drive?
No, actually, I this drive is a very new drive because at first I was very selfish and I thought of myself only. When I used to go to Zimbabwe, we would visit Victoria Falls or the city. I was indulging in my own pleasures. I loved going back home, embracing my culture. But just because it's only my culture doesn't mean it doesn't extend to those around me. So I would only think of myself and how my education affected me. And then over time, as I started going to GNN Mission School, I learned if I'm only thinking of myself, everybody else will only think of their self. No progress will be made. No progress, no passion will be implemented. No action will be implemented, and that's not okay. So it wasn't a an immediate thought of, hey, I'm passionate about this. It took time to develop this passion, to develop this want. So yes.
Okay, that's so cool and that's so fire. And just keep on inspiring people because what you're doing is awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the chapter you've established here in Columbia, how is it so far?
So far, it's going good. We have a great group of dedicated students. We go out to different boroughs in New York City, Queens, and we've also been in Washington Heights. We've been in Manhattan here, and we deliver public health education workshops over topics such as mental health, hygiene, nutrition, simple topics in which we think a student is supposed to know about, but they don't know about. We've gone into classrooms this semester in which we talk about mental health, but the students have never talked about mental. At home, they're told to suppress their feelings and keep it to themselves. And then our organization, we come and we go and we start talking about, hey, you need to open up. You can see on the students' faces they're confused because they're told at home, put that away, put your feelings away. But then strangers are coming to tell them, no, open up. So it's definitely been an eye-opening experience for me and for the members of our chapter here. And we're new, of course, but we're excited to expand and involve more members and more people at Columbia to see equitable education is something that we must not take for granted. Yes.
And like, what is it like starting it, you know, and just that whole process, you know, how did you because I'm guessing starting a whole chapter is quite hard, and there's a lot of structural things that you should, structural logistical things that you should put into mind. So how was that process?
So the process, it's not the easiest process, but I do believe if you have a passion, you will get it done. At first, the simple idea of booking a room in order to host meetings, if you're not a recognized club, that's impossible. So what you have to do is you go through loopholes in order to simply book a room. So it's not the easiest process, but as I said, if you have a passion, which I do have, it's gonna get done, right? No matter the obstacles that come. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. So it was just a small belief, and though there are plenty of obstacles that come with starting a chapter at Columbia, reaching out to the organization, asking for permission to even start at Columbia, getting resources to even start at Columbia. It's a hassle, it's a lot. But given that there's other people in the club who are also as passionate, we're working together, we're building one another up to eventually get this recognized and get this going, for a long time.
How, your perspective, how has it grown from when you started, not only the chapter, but just doing work on equitable education? How has it shifted? Because right now we're almost, to me, I feel like we're almost done with uni, because the way time is flying. I don't know how we got to sophomore year. So how has your perspective shifted?
My perspective, I feel as if my ignorance has been reduced, only because I've exposed myself to diverse backgrounds and diverse peoples. So if you were to ask me 3 years ago, what's my perspective on quality education, I would have said, no, it's okay. We're doing great. Everyone has access to quality education, because I was only thinking of the United States of America or the school that I went to. But now today I'm thinking of the world and students around the world as a whole. So I feel as if my ignorance has been reduced because of my exposure to others who are also like-minded in increasing a child's dream, right? If that makes sense.
All right, makes sense, yeah. In Afropolitan, you presented a poem. Could you walk us through, the poem and what inspired you to write the poem? Yeah.
Yes, so I did write in high school. I love to write mainly poems and long stories. And in high school, I wrote in 9th grade, I wrote a poem, and it got published in a museum in Texas. And I was like, wait, I can actually write. So I continued writing. And so usually when I write my poems, it has to do with empowerment. Because in 9th grade, I would say my self-esteem was not the best. But then when I wrote on paper, I was like, let me write something to empower myself. And that's what I did. So I continued doing so. And so for Afropolitan, they were looking for performers who could perform something that embraced African pride and African culture. And when it comes to me, I love to embrace my African culture and my African pride, because there was a moment in time where I was ashamed of saying I'm from Africa. There was a moment of time where I was ashamed of saying I'm from Zimbabwe, or even speaking in Shona in public. And that is a time I don't want to go back to, and a time I hope other people don't have to go through. Because you should not be ashamed of where you come from. You should embrace it. That is what makes you you. And so at Afropolitan, I was like, I know we're all coming to celebrate African culture, but I also know not everyone is ready to embrace their African culture. We may put on the attire, we might dance to the Afro beats, but do you really embrace who you are? So I wrote the poem, and it was just, I hope my purpose was to empower each and every single individual in that room. You must be comfortable with who you are. You must embrace who you are, because you can't change it. So if you can't change it, what must you do? You must embrace it. And I do believe the tone that I used to also perform the poem had a big effect on how students that were listening, took the message. Because when you speak with power and you're speaking strong words, it's the message is better taken than if I was like, and we must embrace. No, we must embrace who we are, right? So that was just really my Afropolitan experience.
Yeah, and I really appreciate what you've talked about, like speaking with power, because sometimes people, show up in a room, for example, and they're very timid, or even the way that they show up, just like the way they dress up, know, like someone just does not look the part.
Yes.
And it's very important for people to just not only you might believe in what you say, but the way you present it might not show that you believe in what you say.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I really appreciate, what you've said. And then even you present it, because I remember it, I was like, oh my god, that is fire.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you've also talked about how there's a shame that sometimes comes with African people, they're maybe not very confident in saying where they're from. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think, wow, there's a lot of factors that go into that, but I think it's because they're not taught to embrace who they are. For me, I will use my own personal example. When I was in middle school, the school I went to, there were no other Africans. It was just me, and then I was not very diverse, and at home my parents would tell me, you're from Zimbabwe. That was it. We didn't really go into the culture of Zimbabwe. And then I would go to school, and these students, in middle school, you're starting to get new ideas and everything. They'd ask, where are you from? I say, Zimbabwe. So you're from Africa? And I'm not sure what was going on at the time, but people thought Africa had no water. We lived in huts. We lived in the trees. We swam with the monkeys. That's it. That's what they thought. And I was like, is this the reality that must be pressed onto me? So I allowed another person's reality, someone who never stepped foot in Africa, to press their reality onto me. And I kept that mentality. And so then I was ashamed. Ashamed because of another person's reality. Mind you, they don't even know where Africa is on the globe. So I think that's why a lot of times we feel ashamed due to other people's opinions, and we allow those opinions to determine our mindset. So
and that's very true. I feel like, of course, the narrative has changed right now due to globalization. A lot of people listening to Afrobeat, which I really love. And it's just very fascinating how someone else's perspective can shape your own perspective about yourself. And it's very important for people to see people like you, people who are taking up space, people who are going the extra mile, because you should, for you to have a sense of cultural pride, a sense of African pride, you should see people who look like you,
exactly,
over here. And they're taking up space, many a time you see people even don't even consume African content, who are from the continent. I remember when I was in primary school, for example, and people would only listen to say content that comes from the States or from Europe, and they don't really they cringe when they listen to African content, But right now I really appreciate the fact that things are changing, but there's a lot to be done.
There's still a gap.
There's still a gap. And you mentioned something on that shame and that let's go with shame. How did you break free from that? Because you mentioned that there was a time when you weren't really confident in saying that you're from Zimbabwe. How did you take any action steps? Did you I don't know, journal or something? What did you do?
So what made me break through that shame was meeting another person who was from Zimbabwe. That wasn't until late middle school. She was from Zimbabwe, and we started talking, connecting. The difference between her and I, though, was she was empowered by where she came from. I was not empowered. So I'm thankful for her, because she told me, she noticed my shame and how I didn't want to claim where I was from, and she helped build me up. And she said, yes, you're from Zimbabwe, but that is not the only thing that defines you, and there's nothing you can do to change it. So now you must embrace it. And she showed me how to embrace. Sometimes we need to be shown how to embrace. We need to be shown someone else who we want to be, who is from where we're from, and that's how we can build ourselves up. For me, it was just dealing with another person also from Zimbabwe, and they inspired me to embrace my culture.
And you also mentioned something on the narrative of the African continent, and it's very vital to take back that power of like reclaiming our narrative, And what do you think are the action steps that we should take as African people to reclaim that narrative?
Yeah, I think first things first is to embrace who you are and be comfortable with the fact that no matter what you say or what you do, other people will have their opinions. So you must first embrace who you are. And then once you've embraced who you are and you're comfortable with who you are and you're comfortable with saying, I am from Africa and speaking in your native tongue, you then show that embrace into others. You don't force it onto others, right? You don't, for those who have their own opinions and think Africa doesn't have water, you don't force it onto them saying, no, we have water. You just show them with grace and kindness, hey, this is not the reality of our country. We just must expose them to what we have. For me, we had like projects, right, in high school. Every time we had a class project, I always found a way to divert it into something that had to do with Africa, right? So I could expose these people to the reality of Africa, to the reality of our culture, to the reality of our pride. I remember my first ever presentation, I did it over Victoria Falls, which is in Zimbabwe, very beautiful. Everyone should go. And so we were talking, and a lot of the students in class, they started to spread ignorant comments. They were saying, you guys have that much water? You have that much water? And I was like, wow. There was two options. I could have bursted out and said, yes. I could have been rude about it. But instead, I chose grace. I was like, I kept on showing them photos from what I took from when I went. And I think that was the best way, going through grace. Because a lot of the times, that is what they're taught, so then that's what they choose to believe, right? It's not always their fault. So you just must go about it in grace, and I think that's it, Yeah,
and you mentioned, like, it starts off with, like, even us ourselves, like, just being proud of the identity, just, like, always, like, it's always starts with the internal before even going to the external,
Exactly.
Yeah, and you've also mentioned the fact that they were taught that way.
Exactly.
Which brings to question like what we are taught in the education system, because like what we are taught, what we are told is what we now internalize and believe in. So it's very important as well to like the education system should be, or not even the education system, but also what is perpetuated in the media should be rewritten in a better way to like give people their agency.
Yes.
So the last question I usually ask is, what would you do to, given the opportunity, to revamp or improve the education system?
Yeah. To improve the education system, I think I would, first we must empower those with access, such as myself, to use their access to benefit others. And it really it's a matter of reducing ignorance, because for me, I started very ignorant to what it means to have quality education. But then when I was exposed, when someone who had access gave me insight to another person who has no access, my ignorance was then reduced. And so I think it starts with exposure. I'd first start with exposing every individual of what goes on all around the globe instead of thinking of ourselves. And once we've exposed everyone, we then must act. Not everyone's going to have the passion for it, but it doesn't take the whole world. It takes a few people who are passionate, and those few people that are passionate can put to work their dreams. And I do believe at the end of the day, quality education means no matter where you come from, who you are, what you identify as, you have the ability to dream as much as a person all the way across the globe. I want education in which every child can dream the same amount. Every child's dream is not limited or determined by how much their mother or father makes. It's determined about who you are and what you want to do. So that's really what it is for me.
All right. Thank you so much for being the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.